When people find out I've been on Dancing with the Stars, I always get the same 3 questions. 1, can the stars really dance that well, or is it done with smoke and mirrors? 2, is there any hanky-panky going on between the stars and the dancers? Because I know you're thinking that. And 3, you're not a star, so how in the heck did you get on that show? And I hope you didn't dance. Well, let me tell you, I am a terrible dancer. Case in point, this is my wedding dance. And we got married about 5 years ago, and this is my lovely bride, Tommy. And yes, I'm very, very lucky. It took me 6 months to learn this 2-minute dance. And if you look closely at my wife's teeth, she's gritting them and she's saying, "Stop stepping on my feet, please. And why did we spend all that money on dance lessons?" So, no, I didn't dance. I did not inherit a dance gene. But our son did. And if you're wondering, he's dancing to Talking Heads, and I showed him the 80s move. So, no, I didn't dance. What I did on Dance with the Stars is explain to the audience how these stars could handle the pressure of learning a new dance every week. If you're familiar with the show, every week they learn a new dance. And it's live TV in front of 20 million people. They're not dancers. They're not maybe stars. I mean, that's a different story. And so they're also being judged. So how do they handle that pressure? And that same pressure applies to you in the world of event planning, because your lives are under intense pressure. You have deadlines, you have budgets to meet, the pressure of client relationships, the pressure of going 24/7, and the pressure of doing so much with less and less. And so there's also pressure on your lives at home. The pressure of having a great attitude for your friends and family. The pressure of having great energy every day. So I ask you, how are you going to handle that pressure? How are you going to be at your best every day? Because who you are is important, and what you do is very important. So you must be at your best. You must be able to handle that pressure. And the simple answer is emotional mastery. When you master your emotions, you master your world. When you have the power over your fear, when you have the power over your negativity, you will release your talents. When you have the power, you will be your best when it really counts. And I learned the power of emotions when I was 15. When I was 15, yes, that's me. It's the 70s, and let me just say, I've kept those shorts. They're not going to fit, but I know the style's coming back. And the racket, and I call that the hair don't. And my life was great. I was on the tennis team, and then one heartbeat later, my dad died. And I went from this happy-go-lucky teen to this terrible teen. I started getting fights. I started yelling at the teachers. And luckily, the vice principal cared. He called me in his office and he said, "Greg, you're going to be expelled unless you see Dr. Carlson." Well, I didn't want to see a shrink. I didn't even know what a shrink was, and I didn't want to see one, but he insisted. So that afternoon, my mother took me to see Dr. Carlson, and Dr. Carlson, within just a few minutes, he knew what was blocking me. He took a pillow from the couch and he said, "Greg, I want you to pretend this pillow is your dad, and I want you to start hitting it." And I was like, "I don't want to hit that pillow. If it's my dad, he's gone. I don't want to hurt him." And he said, "No, just go with it." So I started hitting the pillow, and all of a sudden my emotions started getting out of whack. And I started hitting the pillow harder, and then all of a sudden I wanted to rip that pillow, and I threw it on the ground. I stomped on it, and then I yelled out a painful scream. And that was the start of my journey. And I know a lot of you have lost a parent at a young age, and maybe you repressed your emotions like I had. But don't worry, we're not handing out pillows this afternoon. But once I started learning about my emotions, and I started gaining the power of my emotions, it took a while, but I went back that happy-go-lucky kid. And I remember vowing to understand how successful people master their emotions. So for the last 30 years, I've researched, I've consulted, I've coached some of the greatest athletes in the world, like players on the PGA Tour like Brandt Snedeker. If you're familiar with golf, I worked with players on the Bulls like Trent Hassel, people in the NFL. I've coached CEOs from the Fortune 500 companies, and I've worked with people just like you. And what I've discovered is this. Everyone has amazing talents. Everyone in this room has amazing, unbelievable talents. But sometimes you have emotions that block you, fear and negativity. And so they block you from being your best under pressure. But the most successful people, what they can do is they have the right emotions. And so their talent comes out under pressure. And that's why they're so successful. It's really what I call they have the juice of life. And to explain this in a more literal, visual way, and before I do that, actually, let me talk about the negativity bias. And what they can do is the most successful people are emotionally tough. They basically have flipped the negativity bias. And the negativity bias is this. 40,000 years ago, when we were hunters and gatherers, we were living out of fear. We were afraid of dying. We were chased by mastodons and saber-toothed tigers. We were not masters of our domain. And people have retained, maintained, and continue to have the negativity bias. They live out of fear. They live out of doubt. They live out of worry. And all they're trying to do in this world is survive. But the most successful people, the people who are emotionally tough, they have flipped the switch. And they don't live out of negativity or fear. They live out of joy. They don't live out of doubt and worry. They live out of confidence. And they're not trying to survive. They thrive in this world. They have what I call is the juice of life. And to explain this in a more literal, visual way, I have my only prop. And I do this at my university to all my classes. And I say, this is on the test. Because when I say this is on the test, that means they have to listen. So this is on the test. So level 1 question. If I squeeze this orange, what comes out? Orange juice, right? If I squeezed it yesterday, what comes out? Orange juice. If I squeeze it tomorrow, what comes out? Orange juice. If you squeeze it, what comes out? Orange juice. Level 2 question. Why? Why does orange juice come out? Because that is what is inside. Right? Level 3 question. Level 3 question. What have you put inside? If you've put in fear and negativity and doubt, that is what comes out when you get squeezed. Because we all get squeezed in life. That is the human condition. We all get squeezed. But if you put in joy and love and compassion, then when you get squeezed, that's what comes out. And the most successful people, the people who are emotionally tough, they have put in the right juice of life. So it's really my hope today to help you to put in the right juice of life. And to be more specific on how to do that specifically, I want to share with you the Emotional Toughness Triad. But before I do that, let me tell you, I love your questions. And this room is not so easy to ask questions, but I will be in the back of the room afterwards. So if you have any questions about emotional toughness or things about your life, please come ask me after the presentation, because I love your questions. I learned so much from questions. Last summer, I was speaking to 8-year-old golfers in Nashville. And if you've ever spoken to 8-year-olds, they do this the entire time. And I said, we're talking about emotional toughness, and at the very end of the talk, 20 minutes, I said, do you have any questions? Anybody have any questions? And finally, that one kid in the back starts jumping up, and I go, what is it? He goes, do you know you look just like Will Ferrell? So it must be the hair. But you can't pick your parents. In fact, my mom is here today. So thank you, Mom, for all the gifts you've given me and for looking like Will Ferrell. But with that being said, the emotional toughness triad is this. The first step is to be emotionally aware. That is the first key to emotional toughness. And you have to know why you have these key emotions, and why you are inspired, and why you're burnt out. Once you know that, you can then create what I call primers. Primers are words, actions, and images, powerful stimuli which push your emotions in the right direction. And then once you do that over time and create a habit, then when you get squeezed, these positive, powerful emotions come out under pressure. This is the emotional toughness triad. And if you look closely, you'll see it everywhere. And a great example of this is one of my favorite stories and who I really admire, Muhammad Ali. Long before he was boxing champion of the world, long before he strode up those stairs shaking from Parkinson's to light the Olympic flame, remember that in Atlanta? That was an amazing scene. He grew up very poor in Louisville. His mother could barely afford food, definitely not expensive toys, but the young Muhammad Ali, back then known as Cassius Clay, thank you, saw this blue bike. It was a Schwinn, had this leather seat and the great handlebars and that great emblem. And man, he wanted that bike. So he got a job boxing groceries at a local grocery store, excuse the pun. He finally had enough money for that blue bike, handed the shopkeeper the money. Next day, he rode all over Louisville for 8 hours. He showed off to his friends, his family, that blue bike. Man, he loved that bike. The next day, parked his bike in front of the grocery store when he went to work, and made sure the lock was nice and tight. When he came back out, someone had clipped the lock and stolen his bike. And he never found his bike. He never found out who stole his bike. But we all know Muhammad Ali is a true champion. He's totally emotionally tough, and he harnessed that negative energy into a positive force of power. So every time he would step into the ring, he'd point at his opponent and say, "You're the guy who stole my blue bike." True story. Think about it. He's using the primers of the action, pointing. He's using the image of the blue bike, and he's saying, "You're the guy who stole my blue bike." That is how he basically became so successful. He's using this principle of emotional toughness triad that I'm sharing with you today. But it's not about sport. It's about life. And if you look closely, you'll see it everywhere. You'll even see it in acting. Everybody knows who this is, right? Matthew McConaughey. And he is one of the best, won the Academy Award for Dallas Buyers Club. And before every scene, he has a primer. And he goes like this. He pumps his chest 3 times. And when Leonardo DiCaprio saw that, he said, let's put that in the scene of Wolf of Wall Street. And that's where this is from. Everybody who's very successful uses this principle of emotional toughness triad. But we're all unique. I don't think anybody in here is going to be the boxing champion of the world. I'm not sure about winning an Academy Award or playing bongo drums naked. You know that story about Matthew McConaughey playing bongo drums naked? Well, that's a different story. Okay. But we're all unique. And so we have to discover our own uniqueness and use this power to our own benefit. And to explain this in better detail, first I have to explain about emotions in a little bit more detail. The magic of emotions. Emotions are mystical. They're magical. They're irrational. I mean, why do I cry at a sad kids movie? I mean, my wife, when she sees that, she goes, "Are you really doing that?" Yes, it's a sad movie. Or why do I get really mad when I burn this scrambled eggs? It's because of the skillet. At least that's what I tell my wife. Or why, when you're late for work and that person cuts you off in traffic, you give them the finger. Okay, maybe not that finger, but you know what I'm talking about. Emotions fill us with rage. They fill us with frustration. They fill us with negativity. But they can also fill us with joy and caring and compassion. And we want to discover how we can fill our lives full of these positive emotions. And to do that, I have to ask you this question. What do you think is the primary emotion?
Fear.
Love, fear. Right? We all have an answer. Let me answer this question. It's going to take me about 7 minutes, so I have to sidestep, but it's based on recent research that I've done. I think it's very impactful, and I believe you'll find it very impactful. About 10 years ago, David Metter came to my class. David is the National Blind Golf Champion. And he lives in Nashville, and he's one of the happiest guys I know, so I have him speak to my happiness class. Yes, I get to teach a class on happiness, so I'm very lucky and happy. And he tells my class exactly what everyone in here is thinking. How does a blind man play golf? Well, he has a coach, and the coach lines him up and takes the face and lines the face up, and David takes it back and hits it down the middle. I mean, he is really good. I've played with him. I've bet him. I've lost money. He's really good. But he also tells my class of the horrific accident, how he's coming over the hill way too fast in his car hits the tree, his head bashes into the windshield, puts him in a coma. And when he awakens in the hospital bed, the doctor's standing over him and says, David, you severed your ocular nerve. You will be blind for the rest of your life. From the age 18, he'll be blind for the rest of his life. And he tells my class that before the accident, he was selfish, he was uncaring, he was uncomposed. But the accident changed him to his core. And after the accident, he became much more caring, much more focused. In fact, he tells my class blindness allowed him to truly see what was important in his life, like friends and family. He also tells my class he's the only man in America who could walk through Home Depot and never see anything he wants. But that's his joke, not mine. David Metter allowed me to see that the old science of loss is incomplete. I think a lot of you are familiar with the old science, Kubler-Ross. She investigated people who are dying, and she discovered they went through these stages: anger, denial, depression, bargaining, acceptance. Well, David just didn't accept his lot. He just didn't bounce back. He was not just resilient, he bounced back even higher. He transcended because of his tragedy. He turned tragedy into transcendence. He used this adversity as a superpower for personal growth. In fact, David exemplifies one of my favorite quotes from Michelangelo, who said this: I saw the angel in the stone, and I carved until I set it free. I love that quote. There's so many people, when they're hit by a tragedy, a painful adversity, they act like they're frozen in stone. They build a fortress around their heart, and they don't let anybody in. But there's other people like David Metter who use the tragedy like a chisel to free their authentic self, to become the person they were meant to be. And I wanted to discover how these people could do that, how they could turn tragedy into transcendence, because I know a lot of people are stuck in that pain. I had a lot of pain in my life. I lost my dad at an early age. We had a few miscarriages before we had our son Miles. But there's some people that are still stuck in that pain, and I wanted to help them get unstuck. So I investigated people from all over the world who said they had turned tragedy into transcendence. I investigated a woman who lost her husband and a daughter in a Mumbai terrorist attack, and she said it was terribly painful, but she said afterwards she became a better person because of it. I interviewed a man who was an addict who overcame his addiction, and then he went into the ministry so he could help others with their addiction. And I was looking for 3 or 4 or 5 factors that led to their transcendence. But I didn't discover factors. What I discovered, to my amazement, is that they all went through these same stages in the same sequential order to transcendence. But it makes sense because Kubler-Ross discovered stages. We all know Piaget discovered cognitive stages of development. There's physiological stages. So why not stages of transcendence? And the first stage is this. The tragedy act like a wake-up call and literally slapped them in the face, and they said they realize they're not on the path they should be. They're not as happy as they want to be, and they must change. A lot of them said it was like they were sleepwalking, and the tragedy slapped them in the face, and they awoken to their life. And that led to the second stage. They flipped the switch. They realized that this terrible, terrible moment had purpose in their life. And because it had purpose, they need to change. They need to get out of their comfort zone and move in a new direction. And because they're out of their comfort zone, they realize strengths and talents they never knew existed, which led to the third stage. They released their genius. And once they released their genius, they moved into the fourth stage. They create a new life song. And a life song is this. It's when your life is aligned with your true purpose. And when that happens, you have joy and contentment beyond compare. You live in your flow every day. And once you create your new life song, it led to the fifth final stage. They live in their we spot. And the we spot is this. They let go of the ego. It's not about what they can get and what they can achieve, but what they can give. They move from a me mentality to a we mentality. And once they do that, they give off this amazing energy, and the world responds to them in kind. And I know you've heard about stories like the father who loses his son to a terrible disease, and he starts a charity. But I don't believe you realize they went through these stages. But once you see these stages and know about them, you'll see them everywhere. You'll see them in books. You'll see them in magazines. You'll see them in movies. You'll see them in tweets. Okay, maybe not tweets, but you'll see them everywhere. You'll even see them in stories you've heard about and recall. And the story is about Petra Nemcova. She's a supermodel, and she was vacationing with her boyfriend in Thailand in the resort, and the tsunami came in 2004. Remember that story? And that wave took her boyfriend out to sea, and he lost his life. And that wave took Petra, and it pummeled her, it broke her bones, but it also lifted her so high she could grab on to the palm fronds of a palm tree. Can you imagine how high that was? And as she's hanging on for dear life in terrible pain for 8 hours, it didn't compare to the psychic pain. Because as she's hanging on, she could hear the children calling for help. Please help me. Please help. Please help. Can you imagine that? And as the water receded and she got rescued, she realized, this is my wake-up call. She flipped the switch and she said, I'm going to start a charity for children. I'm going to build schools. But Petra never started a charity, so she got way out of her comfort zone. She started realizing strengths and talents she never knew existed. She became a great organizer, a great fundraiser. She went back to school to gain her business savviness. And to date, she started a charity called Happy Hearts Fund, which has opened more than 100 schools throughout the world, and this is a school opening. And Petra knew she was in her we spot when one of the headmasters comes up to her and says, Petra Nemcova, you are our guardian angel. She said that was some of the sweetest words she's ever heard. Think about it. Petra Nemcova was all about superficialities, projecting her image. And that tragedy changed her to her core. And now she is a person of positive impact who has influenced the world in amazing ways. Tragedy doesn't have to beat you up. Tragedy doesn't have to pummel you. Tragedy can lift you higher. You can fall up. And when I learned about this research and I discovered these stories, it changed me to my core because I started thinking differently about the world. I started teaching differently. I started speaking differently. In fact, it gave me a jolt of self-awareness because I didn't realize it at the time, but I too had gone through these stages. About 8 years ago, 3:30 in the morning, I was waking up and I was getting like a panic attack. My head was getting all tingly, my head was pounding, and I started taking really shallow breaths, and I just said, just relax. I went back to sleep. I know some of you have that same feeling early in the morning. And I was thinking, why would this happen to me? I was a professor, I was living a good life, I was playing golf almost every day. And then I get the wake-up call, Dr. Phil. Remember when Dr. Phil was on Oprah on Tuesdays? So yes, I watch Oprah, please don't judge me. And this woman was describing the same exact feelings that I had. And he said to her, you're in a bad relationship, your physiology is calling you out, and you must change. Well, I didn't realize at the time, but I was in a bad relationship with my career. And my physiology was calling me out. And I must change. Yes, being a professor is a good life, but most professors would tell you there's a superficiality to it. Most students want to know, is Dr. Steinberg, is this going to be on the test? And how do I get an A in your class? And do I really have to buy this book? So, yes, you have to buy the book. I needed a deeper connection. And so I started writing my own books. I started speaking around the world about purpose and meaning, and that feeling went away. It vanished. But I knew I was in my wee spot when I get this email from a Brazilian priest, and it was in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, so I had to de-Googleize it. And I had written earlier, I had written a book called Flying Lessons. It teaches parents how to build emotional toughness in their kids so they can soar into life. And it was translated in Spanish. And these words by the Brazilian priest were some of the sweetest I've ever read. It said, "God bless you, Dr. Steinberg, for writing Flying Lessons. We love your book. Can we use it in all our church schools?" And I thought, heck no. No, I thought, yes, see, of course. And I posted that email in my office, and I looked towards that for great emotions. What this research and these experiences taught me is this: your soul cries out for purpose. You must live in purpose. And if you do not, your physiology will call you out. And yes, you can distract yourself by watching endless videos on YouTube about cats with Donald Trump's hair. You know what I'm talking about. You can distract yourself by playing golf like I had, and you can placate these negative emotions with substances. But eventually, your physiology will find you. And it might find you out in terms of burnout. It might find you out in terms of depression. It might find you out in terms of hopelessness. But eventually, your physiology will find you out if you do not live in purpose. And that's why tragedy is such a gift. Because it helps people, it forces people to live in purpose. Think about it. Tragedy shook these people and said, wake up, find your true self, live in purpose. It didn't shake these people and say, be more confident, go on a trip to Jamaica. Tragedy is a gift because it forces us to live in purpose. But you, I hope, realize you don't need tragedy. You don't need tragedy, but you do need to give yourself the gift of living in purpose. Purpose is the master emotion. Purpose is what we all seek. Purpose is what we all need. And purpose leads to all these wonderful, amazing, positive emotions. When we live in purpose, we are the most emotionally tough person. Let me give you an example of this. One of my favorite documentaries is Man on Wire. It won the Academy Award about 10 years ago. Did anybody see that? Great movie. And it's about a Frenchman living in France, of course. And when he was younger, he saw this picture of the Trade Center towers. And he said, I'm going to walk across those Trade Center towers on a tightrope. A little crazy. And so for 20 years, he mastered the craft of tightrope walking. He even joined a circus, and he got great at this skill. And as he got older, he went to New York 3 different times because going to the top of the Trade Center tower is trespassing. So he had to figure out a plan. So he got the plan, and the 4th time he got a team together, and he decided he's going to shoot an arrow from one Trade Center tower to the other, and his team's going to catch it. So he shot 4 arrows, and they caught him, and they pulled the strings together because you need 4 strings or 5 strings to make that rope real tight. And he walked along the tightrope. And as he did that, everybody's looking up. Oh my God, there's a guy up there. Oh, and they're freaking out, and the thousands of people come, and the media comes, and the police come, and they say, we got to get that guy down. So they go up to the Trade Center towers, and they try to grab him, and he goes by him, and he kind of teases them, and he walks over here, and he's just teasing him for hours, and then he lies down on the rope, and he's doing all this crazy stuff. But eventually, he comes down. And the media mobs him, instant celebrity. And they ask him this question, why did you do it? What do you think he said? There is no why. There is no why. That's what purpose is. You don't do it for accolades. You don't do it for praise. You don't do it for money. You don't do it for fame. When you live in purpose, you do it because that is who you are. And because of that, he had amazing commitment to his task. He had amazing confidence. He had amazing courage. He had amazing peace of mind. Purpose gives you all these amazing emotions. And when you live in purpose, you will be the most emotionally tough person you could imagine. And people ask me, Greg, is purpose really an emotion? Think about this. You get out of the supermarket, and there's a lady there, and she has a sign that says, need food. And she has 2 young children. And you know this is the real deal. This is the real deal. And you usually don't do this, but you look in your wallet or purse, you take out a 20 and you give it to her, and she says, God bless you, God bless you, God bless you. What do you feel at that moment? You feel purpose. You feel joy, you feel peace, but you feel purpose. Purpose is the master emotion. You must live in purpose. And when you do, you will be successful. You will be happy. When you create purpose in the center of your world, you will be the best person you can possibly be. Think about this when you have a difficult client and he's screaming and yelling at you about some event and you had no cause about it and it wasn't your fault. But he's screaming and yelling at you. But if you believe what you're doing has a meaningful impact on his life, all that anger towards you kind of just melts away. Or if you're a parent and you get home and your children are screaming and yelling and they're acting spoiled like usual, and you know that living in purpose as a parent is to make sure your children have integrity and they're going to create a positive impact on the world, then what you say to them and what you do, you're so committed to that. And you're so confident you're doing the right thing no matter what they say to you, because you're living in purpose as a parent. Or if you have a colleague that pushes your hot buttons, but you know together you're creating a positive, powerful impact on this conference or this business, those hot buttons aren't so hot anymore. When you create the center of your universe with purpose, you are the best person you'll possibly be. You will be the most emotionally tough person. And I want to explain to you how to put this in your life, how to live in purpose, because I know there's no way you're going to quit your job, create a charity, and go to Haiti. That's not realistic, but you can live in purpose every day. And I want to share with you how to do that. But before I do, let me just finish the Muhammad Ali story. Yes, it was about his blue bike, but it was also about his mama. Muhammad Ali loved his mama. His mama gave him so much purpose in his life. His mama worked 3 jobs, and he just loved his mama. And when that kid stole the blue bike, he was really stealing from his mama. And you don't do that. So when he stepped in the ring, he was really thinking, you stole from my mama, and I'm going to teach you a lesson you're never, ever going to forget. When Muhammad Ali filled his life full of purpose, he became the best person he could possibly be when he needed it the most. But I'm not asking you to be a boxing champion of the world. I'm not asking you to play bongo drums naked. We're all unique. I want to show you how to apply this to your world, to work. And a better example, I think, more realistic example, is with Mark Dansfield. Mark came to me about 5-6 years ago, and he said, I'm so burnt out. I'm a financial advisor. I love my job. I make lots of money, but I'm just burnt out because everybody is getting on me about losing money. It was right after the recession. I just burnt out. And he said, can you help me? And I said, okay, Mark, tell me a time when you were truly inspired, a time you had a meaningful impact on others. And he said, well, you don't know this about me, but in my former life, I was Lieutenant Dansfield. And I was a medic in Afghanistan. And I helped surgeons. And one day they flew Private Williams to our makeshift ER. And Private Williams was the lookout. And he was in a Humvee on this top of this hill, and he saw his company being ambushed. So he rode in the Humvee as fast as he could, breaking walls, bullets flying everywhere, and his company jumped in, he saved their lives. But as he did that, 5 bullets entered his body. And he said, we operated on him for 5 hours. And I thought to myself, there's no way a guy with this much courage is going to lose his life. And he awoke. About a week later, he was in a coma. And when he awoke, he gave me the thumbs up. And I knew that to me was the most inspired moment in my life. And I said, why? why were you so inspired? He said, because I was saving lives. And I said, you're still saving lives. You're saving economic lives now. And I said, let's create these primers for you. Your buzzwords are going to be saving lives. Your action's going to be the thumbs up. And the image, he had a picture of himself in his army fatigues. So I said, put that picture on your iPhone. And every time you feel like your emotions are taking a dip, you feel a little burnt out, I want you to say your buzzwords, saving lives. I want you to do your action, and I want you to look at your image. And that's going to boost your emotions. And it works because when you live in purpose, every day you will be the best person you're going to be. And let me just say this right now. So far, this half of the talk, I have created the stage. But we are all actors, and so you can no longer be a passive participant. You must be the active participant, and this is where your participation is key. So the first step is to talk about the Lifesong Triad. And it goes like this. Remember, the life song is when your life is aligned with your true purpose. But it starts with being aware. Being aware of a moment you were truly inspired. And why? Just like Private Williams. Just like Lieutenant Dansfield. Why was he inspired? Because he was saving lives. And then you create notes to your life song, which are words, actions, and images. Because when you get squeezed, you will play your life song when it really counts. And you will be at your best. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to actually do the first step. So I was told there's paper, right, and pencils in the black box on your table. So everybody needs a piece of paper and a pencil. This is the participation part. Okay, so this is what you should do. I want you have to write this down because you'll see why it's essential. Just in 2 sentences, write down a time when you felt like you were truly inspired. You were truly inspired and you made a meaningful impact on someone's life. 2 sentences. Just go ahead and write down 2 sentences describing that event. And once you have that, you need to write down why. Why were you truly inspired? And let me just warn you, I'm coming into the audience, and I'm going to ask you about this event. So, why were you inspired? Okay, just for the sake of time, I need to start with the participation part. So everyone knows in their mind, they already have it. So I'm going to ask, what's your first name? I'm sorry.
Agnello.
Agnello. Tell us the time you were truly inspired.
Well, I kind of draw inspiration every day, but probably the most inspirational time was just before leaving for college with my dad and just having a one-on-one conversation with him.
Why were you inspired?
Just inspired from, it was a moment of realization that he knew more about me than I did myself and was able to provide a sense of direction for me. So
right, you realized how an amazing impact he had on your life.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Couple more. Why were you inspired? Or what was the moment that you were truly inspired?
There's a lot of things that happen at work, and I'm not on property. I'm remotely based out here, so I don't always get to see the customers on site. But just hearing the stories that happen there really make me happy.
Why are you inspired? Why? Let me just say, why is the kicker. It's not just the emotions, but if you know why, then you have control over the emotions.
Probably because the clients are really, understanding the property and the historical nature of it, and they get it, so that makes me inspired.
Okay, great. Okay, one more. Tell us a time you're truly inspired.
Okay, it's kind of on a personal level, but I allowed my son's 13-year-old friend to come live with us
Wonderful. Why are you inspired?
because I gave him an opportunity at life, a chance.
Yes, wonderful, thanks. I think everyone in here, everyone in here has their own story. I know there's been multiple times when you've been truly inspired. And if you know why, then you can move in the right direction. And when I coach people, I also talk to them about a time they were burnt out and why. And so we don't have time for that, but knowing the differences between those two really allows us to move in the right direction, and it gives us emotional awareness, true emotional awareness. But let me move on and talk about step 2, which is creating the primers. Primers are positive, powerful emotional stimuli, like words, actions, and images, which push our emotions in the right direction. A song is a primer. A song can make you sad, it can make you really happy, and it can make you get up and dance when you're totally burnt out. I think you can relate this story to your lives. I flew into Hartford a couple weeks ago. I was tired. It took me 45 minutes to get the rental car. I had no idea what took so long. I finally get my car. I just want to get to the hotel, get dinner, take a shower, and just hit it. And as I'm driving there, I'm in traffic. And now I'm really getting upset. And then all of a sudden that song comes on the radio. And for me, it's Move Like Jagger by Maroon 5. I don't know, I love that song. And all of a sudden I start doing the finger bop and the thumb roll. And then I start doing the chicken. You know the chicken. And I don't realize it, but I get to a light and I'm still doing it. And I look, and it's a cop. And he's looking at me with that strange look. And I knew exactly what he was thinking. He was thinking, that guy is a hell of a dancer. So you get that picture. But primers greatly impact our emotions. So let's just do a couple fun exercises to prove this point. So let me first do the power of words. So I got to divide you in half, okay? You're group A, you're group B. Okay, don't forget your letter. A, B. Okay, so I'm going to show you a word. Okay, so group A, you have to look at the screen. Group B, turn away from the screen. Okay, group A, this is your word. Okay, now group A, turn away from the screen. Okay, group B, look at the screen. This is your word. Okay, everybody look at the screen. What are you thinking about right now? Quick. Okay, what was your word? Chicken. Okay, who thought soap here? Chicken soap. You need to see me afterwards. Okay, what was your word? Wash, right? You probably, I hope, thought soap. Words can greatly push our emotions, our thoughts in a certain direction. Words are the language of emotions. What if you are talking about a client and you say, this client always complains? You have a certain emotion, but you could still describe that same client as that client makes a lot of suggestions. Those words greatly impact your emotions, right? Or you say that client is very confident. What if you said that client is arrogant, right? Totally impacts your emotions. The power of words greatly impacts your emotions. So you must own the power to the words you use. Okay, let's do another one. The power of actions, all right? So everybody, group A, you must fake a smile, because I know it's going to be fake, so fake a smile. Group B, you must scowl and get that crinkle right here, okay? And here's the actual experiment, all right? Everybody look at this. The real reason dinosaurs became extinct, a Gary Larson famous cartoon. You get it? Okay, good. All right. The people who smiled, even a fake smile, they liked this cartoon so much better. The people that scowled, they don't like this cartoon as much because our actions greatly influence our emotions. There's a huge power to our emotions through our actions. Right? Okay, everybody stand up. This is when you got to shake it out a little bit. Remember, it's the participation part. All right, what I want you to do is take some quick, deep, quick, shallow breaths like this. Go. Okay, stop, don't pass out. Okay, don't you feel uneasy? It makes you feel uncomfortable? That's what the fear factor does. When we're in this fight or flight response, we take quick, shallow breaths. Now do this, take some deep breaths. Don't you feel good? It's because now you tell yourself, I feel safe. And that pushes your emotions in a certain direction. The power of breathing greatly impacts our emotions. And if I put you in the doggy Zen position, you would be very relaxed. Yes, this dog, it took months to learn this position, but he's very relaxed. Okay, you can sit down. Thank you very much. The power of images. So here's the real experiment. Group A, we showed you a series of older adults, images of older adults. Group B, we showed you a series of younger adult images. And the true experiment is this. We had you walk down the hall to another room. The group that saw the images of older adults actually walked slower. It's true. And you're thinking, there's no way that would change me. There's no way. It's true, because primers work below our conscious level. They work in our subconscious. Why do you think advertisers spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to make us buy stuff we don't want? I bought a ShamWow last month. I don't even know what it does, but I bought one, right? Does anybody have a ShamWow? Okay, just wondering. All right. What I'm asking is, be the master of your primers. Take control over your primers, and you will live in purpose. You will live in purpose. And so the next step that we must do is figure out the best primers for you, because we're all unique. So this is why you wanted to write it down. Look at those two sentences, and if you emoted, which means you really expressed emotions, there'll be some words that just jump out on you on the page. So try to circle some key words on the description of the time you were truly inspired. There'll be some key words that will just jump out on the page. Remember with Lieutenant Dansfield, it was saving lives. That was his buzzword, because it just jumped out to us. So what is a key word or buzzwords that are jumping out? And I am coming in the audience. I'm going to ask for some buzzwords, so be prepared. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? Just give me a buzzwords. Just one.
I'm sorry, I don't have one.
Okay, you don't have one. All right. Buzzwords.
Relating to?
Relating to your time you're truly inspired.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave you alone. Okay. Buzzwords.
Chutzpah.
Chutzpah. Okay, why chutzpah?
Someone with tenacity and have like survival skills.
Okay, and you feel when you're inspired you have chutzpah?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, I'm not picking on this table. I'm not going to pick on this table. Buzzwords.
I didn't even have one, sorry.
Okay.
Compassion.
Compassion? Why compassion?
Mine had to do with parenting and
Okay.
being
Right.
compassionate to others.
There's no right or wrong with buzzwords, but the key is if you have a buzzword that creates a powerful positive image and it captures these positive emotions, it will work amazingly. It will work unbelievably. And it takes a while. I mean, I've been working on my buzzwords for a while, and it just takes a while. So with that being said, I want everybody to get up one more time. And on the count of 3, you have to tell me, even if you don't have one, you have to tell me your buzzwords. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, those are great buzzwords. You can sit down. Okay. And given that you told me your buzzwords, let me tell you mine. And my story happened about 10 years ago. Millbrook School. It's this upper state prep school in upper state New York. And all the students go to Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. You know the type. And they all have to play 2 sports at this school. But most of them can't even play 1 sport, so you know the type. And I was talking about emotional toughness, and I'm in this chapel, and as I'm talking about emotional toughness, they're all looking at me like this, like you're doing right now. And I literally went outside my body and said, Greg, you're doing a great job. Hang in there. Way to go. That's the time I was so inspired, and I had to ask myself why. Why was I inspired? And it's because I was just sharing my knowledge with them, and I was creating a meaningful impact in their lives. And that made the most different, the great difference in my life. And that basically showed me that I can live in purpose. And I also had to discover why I burn out. What makes me burn out? And it's because I'm trying to prove myself. When I try to prove myself, it basically demotivates me, it uninspires me. And about 8 years ago, I got asked to be on local television to speak about Tiger Woods at the Masters. Remember when he was good? And when the green light came on, I literally froze like a deer in headlight. And I started mumbling a few sentences. The commentator basically covered for me. And as I was leaving, he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, nice try. And literally, he never called me back. And I had to think about why did that happen? Because I was proving myself. And so my buzzwords are just share. And my action, because I was in a chapel, I go like this is my action. And my image is those kids' faces, because it's ingrained in my mind. And I basically do this all the time. This is how I play my life song. Before I come speak to you, I do my actions, words, and images. Before I go teach. And literally, it pushes my emotions in the right direction. It allows me to live in purpose when I need it the most. And when they asked me to be on Dance with the Stars, they told me it's going to be taped. They're going to give me the questions. And I thought, okay, no problem. And when I got there, there was chaotic. It was chaos. They had no idea what was going on. And I'm thinking, this is the way TV shows work? Well, they told me it's going to be live, and we're not going to give you the questions, so just wing it. I'm thinking, just wing it? And so I said, okay, get in control of your emotions, because my emotions start getting out of whack, and I start getting all nervous. And I said my words, I did my action, did my image, and when that green light came on, I'm not an actor, clearly, but I felt like I had really nailed it. And I don't know if you saw the episode, but it was when Sarah Palin was dancing with Barack Obama. Yes, that's fake. It is not real. Can you imagine if the Democrats and the Republicans got along that well? We'd be doing really well. And so the idea is that you can live in purpose all the time. You can do it for a preset. So before you talk to a difficult client, if you can say your words, your actions, your images, you are going to be in the best emotional state you possibly can be. You can do it as a reset. You can basically, after a difficult client, you need some mechanism to let go of that negative baggage. And you can say your words, your actions, your images, and let go of all that negative baggage. Otherwise, it's like a bag of bricks that weighs you down. Or you can do it as a recharge. After a hard day at work, before you enter the door, you can say your words, your actions, your images, and so that you live in purpose in everything you do. And when you push your emotions in the right direction, you will have the right juice of life. You will be at your best under pressure in every situation. Because when you live in purpose, you are the most successful, you are the happiest you will be. That is a human truth. But I didn't discover that truth. In fact, I didn't even discover the stages of transcendence. They have been known about for thousands of years. Let me read to you what Patanjali, a famed philosopher, wrote 3,000 years ago. And he wrote these words: when you're inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all of your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new and great, wonderful world. Dormant forces and talents come alive, and you discover yourself to be a far better person than you ever dreamt to be. He wrote that 3,000 years ago. I hope today that you realize that you are the extraordinary project. You are the extraordinary project. And that when you live in purpose, you will hear those sweet notes to your life song. You will release those amazing talents that you have. And you will become the person you always wanted to be. You will become the person you were meant to be. That's not an ancient truth. That's not a modern truth. This is our truth. So I know what you really want to do. So one last time, everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. Point at your neighbor and say, "You're the person who stole my blue bike." Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.